Imagine you're walking across a vast wilderness thousands of years ago. How did ancient humans survive without clean water? The sun has been burning overhead since sunrise. Your lips are cracked. Your throat feels like sandpaper. And every step drains the last bit of energy from your body. You haven't had a single drop of water all day. Then, finally, you see it. A small pool of water. It's brown, muddy, covered with insects, and surrounded by the footprints of wild animals. You know drinking it could make you terribly sick. But if you don't drink it, you may not live long enough to find another source. What would you do? For ancient humans, this wasn't a rare emergency. It was simply life. Long before wells, pipes, bottled water, or water filters existed, every single day began with one important question. Where can we find water? That won't kill us. Finding food was important, but finding clean water was even more important. A healthy adult can survive weeks without food, but only a few days without water. In hot climates, dehydration can become deadly much faster. Ancient people understood this through experience. Those who ignored water rarely survived long enough to pass on their knowledge. But here's something surprising. Ancient humans didn't just wander around hoping to stumble across rivers. Over thousands of generations, they became incredibly skilled at reading nature. The landscape itself became their map. The first thing they watched wasn't the ground. It was the sky. Birds rarely fly far from fresh water. At sunrise and sunset, many species travel between their nests and nearby water sources. Experienced hunters learn to recognize these flight paths. Following birds often meant following water. But birds weren't the only guides. Ancient humans carefully studied plants. Lush green vegetation in the middle of a dry landscape often meant moisture existed below the surface. Large trees usually had deeper roots reaching underground water. Reeds, cattails, and certain grasses often grew where groundwater was close enough to sustain life. Nature left clues everywhere. The challenge was learning how to read them. Animal tracks were another valuable source of information. Deer, elephants, buffalo, and countless other animals needed water every day. Their footprints frequently formed natural trails leading toward rivers, lakes, or hidden springs. But following animals wasn't always safe. Predators understood exactly the same thing. Lions, wolves, crocodiles, and other hunters often waited near watering holes because sooner or later, prey would arrive. Water wasn't just a place to drink. It was one of the most dangerous places in the ancient world. Even after finding water, another problem remained. Could it actually be trusted? Clear water isn't always safe. Dirty-looking water isn't always deadly. Without microscopes or scientific knowledge, ancient people couldn't see bacteria or parasites. Instead, they relied on observation and experience. If dead animals were floating nearby, if the water smelled strange, if insects covered the surface, or if too many animals avoided drinking from it, they became cautious. Generations of trial and error slowly taught communities which places were safe and which places brought sickness. Sometimes rivers completely dried up. At first glance, it looked hopeless. But experienced people knew something many modern humans would never think about. Water often continued flowing beneath the sand. By digging beside dry riverbeds, underground water slowly seeped into the hole through layers of sand and gravel. The sand naturally filtered much of the dirt, producing clearer water than what remained on the surface. It wasn't perfect, but it could mean the difference between life and death. Rain was another priceless gift. When storms finally arrived, nobody wasted the opportunity. Animal skins, large leaves, carved wooden bowls, shells, And even hollow stones became natural containers for collecting rainwater. Every single drop mattered. Morning brought another hidden source. Before sunrise, tiny droplets of dew formed on grass, leaves, and rocks. Although each drop seemed insignificant, collecting dew with cloth or animal fur could provide enough moisture to ease thirst during difficult times. Some plants also helped people survive. Certain vines stored drinkable water inside their stems. Some roots contained surprisingly large amounts of moisture. Hollow bamboo trapped rainwater, while tree hollows occasionally collected enough clean water to sustain travelers. But knowledge mattered. Many plants looked helpful while actually containing poisonous sap or bitter chemicals. Experience separated survival from disaster. Fire also played an unexpected role. Long before anyone understood bacteria, ancient people discovered that boiling water often made it safer to drink. They didn't know why it worked. They only knew it saved lives. Perhaps the greatest survival skill wasn't strength. It wasn't speed. And it wasn't intelligence alone. It was memory. Every generation shared its knowledge with the next. Where the hidden spring was. Which cave had water after heavy rain? Which river remained safe during summer? Which plants stored clean water? Which ponds brought sickness? Children learned these lessons from their parents, just as their parents had learned from those before them. Knowledge became more valuable than any weapon. Even today, millions of people still rely on techniques surprisingly similar to those used thousands of years ago. In deserts, travelers continue searching for vegetation. Survival experts still follow animal behavior. Rainwater collection remains one of the oldest and most effective emergency water sources ever discovered. Technology has changed. Human survival instincts have not. Now imagine this. Your phone is gone. Your backpack is gone. Your GPS doesn't exist. There are no roads, no cities, no bottles of water waiting in a nearby store. Only wilderness stretches to the horizon. Would you know where to find safe drinking water? Most of us wouldn't. Ancient humans had no choice. They mastered one of the hardest survival skills ever learned by our species, not because they wanted adventure, but because every sunrise demanded it. For them, water wasn't simply something to drink. It decided where families lived, where tribes traveled, who survived, and who became another forgotten story buried beneath the earth.